Shalom, shalom, Yasharala, Mishpaka. I hope all is well. A sister brought up, back to my remembrance, the whole man of lawlessness situation. And I found something here in Ezekiel that I want to show you that I never saw before. I just found it here 15-20 minutes ago, skimming back through Ezekiel. I also want to talk about that update I made last night about the World War Z movie. Now, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, as far as the whole number 42 and 24 and all that stuff goes, you'll just have to ask me or go back through the videos, or I'm sure we'll touch on it again. But for those of you who do remember all the stuff I've been talking about, 42, all the stuff I've been mentioning, reading from the Word about singing the Song of Moses and everything, when I just happened to see a glimpse of that right at the perfect time in that movie, it confirmed everything the Most High has been showing me. The day before I saw that, I was talking about singing. I've been talking about singing the Song of Moses and what it means, and I've shared a lot of scripture where when it's talking about singing, it usually mentions the land. But if you do remember me talking about 42, you might not have really caught what I was saying last night in that update, and I want you to hear me out right now when I tell you this. I told you that the reason they had the title 42 in the news was because it's the invasion of our stronghold, the strongest of strongholds. And right after that, they were showing on the news that they were driving in buses in the middle of the night, in the dark, and picking up migrants to bring them across the border at gate 42. I showed you the fandom story, Marvel story about prison 42. We talked about the 42 months. We talked about the 1290 days, and that it says blessed are those who make it to the 1335 days, so 45 days after the 1290 days. But in that movie, in one 30-second clip, it confirmed everything we've been talking about. In that movie, there is a safe haven established in Jerusalem, and they build a wall around it, and it's keeping the zombies out. And inside the wall, there's a big group of Jews that are singing and dancing and clapping because they are thankful that they made it to the place of refuge, and they're singing too loud. And on the other side of the wall, these zombies are climbing up each other to breach the wall. And right when they get to the top, Brad Pitt, he's realizing that they're singing too loud, and he says, right at the time they breach, he says, they're singing too loudly. And he looks up, and right where the zombie comes over, there's a number 42 underneath of that zombie at the top of the wall where they breach it. So I hope you understand what that means. And the only thing someone might say is, yeah, well, that's in Jerusalem. If they're a believer in all falsehoods and they believe that that's where the land is, they'll say, yeah, it's in Jerusalem. Well, it was symbolic, putting it in Jerusalem. And secondly, they will never reveal that truth on the image of the beast. They would never do it. But if you do, it's free on YouTube. If you have YouTube Premium, it might even be free on just regular YouTube. But if you go on, I'm not encouraging you to watch World War Z. I'm not. But if you go and click on it and you go to the 56-minute mark, you'll see it. They breach at like the 57-minute mark. And you'll see the number 42, and you'll see that I'm not joshing you. But, and another thing I want you to think about, I told you how the 42 is the mirror of 24, and that according to the abomination that lays waste, if you go 1,290 days past that, you're going to be in the summer of 2024. Well, there's a reason they call that movie, they titled it World War Z. There's no war going on in that movie. It's just like a zombie apocalypse. There's a bomb or something let off in the middle of the movie somewhere. But they could have named it anything. But they named it World War Z because they know that's what's going to be happening in 2024. So don't be surprised if that's what's happening. But you should see the significance in them climbing the wall at the number 42 spot, and the sound of loud singing by Jews in Jerusalem is what caused the invasion to come. You should see the significance in that. But what I want to talk about, that's not what I want to talk about. If you want to ask me about it, hey, ask me about it. I hope you do. But what I really want to talk about is a lot of people right now I've seen on Facebook, they're struggling with and asking the question, why can't these people see these truths, these whatever they're talking about? And for those of you who've been with me for a while, you know that's something I've struggled with a lot. But I'm here to tell you, Ezekiel has given us the answer to that. If you've been here a while, you probably remember all those videos months back where I went through Ezekiel. We didn't finish it. We stopped at like chapter 45 or 46, I think. So we still got to finish it. But I'm telling you right now that everything that we talk about, all the answers to all our questions, our head-scratching questions, are found right here in Ezekiel. So I know we're going to go back over it again. We're going to touch on it right now. We're going to read some of it right now. But most people, when you ask them about Ezekiel, all they think about is the wheel within the wheel, the vision that he had about the angels. And no one really knows what's really in Ezekiel. And I'm here to tell you right now, everything is in Ezekiel. That one of those, one part of that everything that we're going to talk about is one thing that prohibits people from seeing truths. And it's a son of Babel. And we're going to go read about him right now. If you've been here and you remember me reading from Ezekiel, you remember us reading about in the beginning of Ezekiel, Abba says, he takes him to this wall and he says, dig with your hand through the wall. Dig a hole and bring Yasharal out. Bring him out on your shoulders. And I want you to know all that he's talking about, it's not literal. He didn't literally dig a hole. This is all symbolic. Every bit of it. Prove me wrong. You cannot do it. It's symbolic. So, and most people think that it's all literal, but it's not. So, and I've been talking about this, that one thing that has stopped people from seeing certain truths is they have built a wall between the Most High and themselves, just like it says here in Ezekiel over and over again. And it says that wall has the sons of the Kasdim, the Chaldeans of Babylon, inscribed on it in red. And then it goes through all the sons of the Kasdim of Babylon, and it tells you who they are. It explains it in detail for those who are looking to see. But I'm here to tell you, you can be shouting all the esteem of the Most High you want. You can be reading the Word every day, but if you still are involved with sons of the Kasdim, it puts a wall between you and the Most High. It doesn't matter how intelligent you are. It doesn't matter how good of a person you think you are. The Most High is not going to give you certain blessings, whatever you want to call it, until you do you put down certain crookednesses that he won't stand for. Let's read right here in 43, verse 10. It says, Son of man, explain the house to the house of Yasharal, and when they are ashamed of their crookednesses, they shall measure the measurements. Most people have no idea what that is talking about, and they are probably like I used to be and never even give it one thought why he would want us to measure these measurements. And since they shall be ashamed of all that they did, make known to them the design of the house and its structure and its exits and its entrances, its entire design and all its laws and all its forms and all its Torah, and write it down before their eyes so that they observe its entire design and all its laws and shall do them. You have to do the design, the measurements. You have to understand what the wall is that separates yourself from the Most High. And you have to see what that wall is. You have to come out of the hole, crawl through that wall, get on the other side of it. Then you have to see what the wall of the house of the Most High is. And you have to understand its measurements and its design. You have to understand that the gates are solid pearl. It's all through the scripture. That means that it's truths. And in one of the main gates, it says the prince sits in that gate. So in order to get through the wall into his house, you have to go through the prince. That's why the Messiah said, no man comes to the Father except through me, through the truth of the Messiah. Right here at the bottom, it says, this is the Torah of the house. Upon the mountaintop, all the boundary of it, all around is most set apart. See, this is the Torah of the house. Always pay attention to every word, because they're all of the utmost necessity, but pay extra close attention when he says the word see or hear. He's trying to get you to understand. And most of you who are listening to this, you understand that the boundary of the house is the Torah. And you're probably Torah observant, Torah loving people. But that doesn't mean that you still haven't put down this one particular thing that will cause you to be on the other side of the wall that's between him and you. Now let me show you what I'm talking about. It's right here in chapter 21. Right here. Verse 25. And to you, O profane, wrong one, leader of Yasharal, whose day has come in the time of the crookedness of the end. Thus said the Master Yahuwah, remove the turban and take off the crown. This shall not remain. Exalt the humble and humble the exalted. Overthrown, I make it overthrown. It shall be no longer until he comes to whom it rightly belongs. And I shall give it. To whom what belongs? The crown. He said, remove the turban and take off the crown. Your crown shall not remain. It's overthrown. And it shall be no longer until he comes to whom it rightly belongs, and I shall give it. That's talking about Hail Zeus. If you go through Ezekiel and you read it word for word, and you're capable of speaking the scripture's language, okay? That's why right up here it says you have to be capable of talking scripture's language, okay? That's why it says right here, and you shall say to the land of Yasharal. Let's get context, baby. Verse 1, and the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, Son of man, set your face toward Jerusalem and drop word against the set apart places and prophesy against the land of Yasharal. And you shall say to the land of Yasharal, Thus said Yahuwah, see, I am against you, and I shall draw my sword out of its sheath and cut off from you the righteous and the wrong. Because I shall cut off from you the righteous and the wrong, therefore my sword shall go out of its sheath against all flesh from south to north. And all flesh shall know that I, Yahuwah, have drawn my sword out of its sheath, not to turn back again. The sword he's talking about, okay? You have to understand, and we've went through it, and like I said, we're going to go through it again, I'm sure, Abba willing, Ezekiel, so we can understand its language. When it talks about Yasharal, it's talking about anyone who claims to serve the quote-unquote God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay? And to prove that to you, you can go in and read, and you can see his problem with Yasharal is the sons of the Kasdim, that profane wrong one we just read about. Who sits as El, who thinks he is the Most High, but is nothing but a man in Bible talk, but actually we know it's nothing but a made-up, fictitious story. You have to understand that when it's talking about walls, it's not talking about literal walls. It's talking about what separates the Most High and those who are with him. That wall is the Torah. We just seen it. The wall that people put in between the Most High and themselves so that they can't see him, can't see the truth. That wall is a wall of Babylon. It has the sons of Kasdim inscribed upon it. Now, I'm sure a lot of you understand how detrimental it is to your future, to your life, to your health, if you use the word Hey Zeus, if you believe the things that he's taught, the working of Satan that is Jesus has taught. You understand, all through here it talks about you laid waste my mountains. You said the mountains of old are no more, they're a waste. That's the Torah, the instructions. You have to understand that none of this is literal, and If you don't have the meaning, if you don't understand what one word's meaning, the rest, you can find the clues to what those words mean all throughout Scripture. Like, just for an example, like the sword. He says, I take the sword out of its sheath. That's the word. That's why you know we're in the end times, because there's a lot of us who are seeing the word for what it actually is, and we're reading it the way it's supposed to be read. But there's still things that are blocking people's eyesight and prohibiting them from seeing the truth about a lot of things. It says in chapter 43, it says, the prince sits in this gate as prince, eating his bread. So what you have to understand is one gate that you have to enter through into the house. Like the Messiah said, no man comes to the Father except through me. You have to go through Yahusha and his word, but you have to understand who he is. Falsehood's not going to get you in the gate. The Messiah also said, you can't come up another way. Thieves and robbers like to come up and try to act like they're going to climb up this wall and get what my Father has. You can't. You must come through him, he said. So you have to understand who Messiah is, and who he ain't, more importantly. And you have to understand all these, you have to see these falsehoods, these crookednesses that Yasharal has, their fathers have cursed them with, and you must come out of that. You must break through that wall. And I'm going to tell you one falsehood that's detrimental, that no doubt will keep you on the other side of that wall. And it's something that the Christians use. They use the death of Hail Zeus as a license to eat whatever they want. Do they not? They do, don't they? They believe that you can eat bacon-wrapped corn dogs, and it does not matter. It's absurdity, isn't it? It's ridiculous. Well, on the other side of that token, there's something that you yourself, you might not have acknowledged. And it might be for the same reason that those Christians eat whatever they want. No one, very few, I think I've seen one other person on all of the internet and all of my interactions, besides myself, that has acknowledged what I'm about to tell you. I've talked about it on here lots of times, but I'm going to talk about it again and shed this new insight regarding it with you. In the commandments, in the Torah, the Most High said that you are not to eat the blood with the meat. He tells you how to cook it. He even tells you how to clean your pots out after you cook it, to clean the blood scum out from the inside of the pot. You're supposed to turn it over and set it on the fire and cook all that blood scum out. You're supposed to dump the blood like water, because that's what it looks like water, out onto the ground. And you know, you can sit and argue about why that would be. You can take that up with the Most High. Those are the orders. There's no two ways about it. But what a lot of quote-unquote Yasharal, Torah observant people are doing right now, they pay no mind to that commandment. So they're telling you they're Torah observant, commandment keepers, but out the other side of their neck, they'll tell you that is ridiculous, that you can eat the blood. You don't have to As long as it's not, well, medium rare, you're good. But that's false. And I'm going to tell you why they do that. Every time you bring up the fact that the Most High said that you are to boil, seethen, or sodden your meat every time you cook it, unless it's in Jerusalem at the time of Passover, of Pesach, in the place where he placed his name. That's the only time. So once a year, if you are there, he permits you, he prescribes that you not grill, what's the word I'm looking for? You roast. You can roast meat. You can eat it unboiled, seethed, or soddened. And you don't have to dump the blood out like water on the ground. And one reason that I see every time I bring that up about you're only to do it during Passover, what you're going to agree with what I'm about to say. What is the main idea behind Torah observant, Messianic, whatever you want to call them, people? What is their explanation for not having to deal with that commandment? They say the Messiah was our Passover lamb. We don't have to deal with that anymore. So they use falsehoods told about the Messiah, the Prince, and who he is, what he did, what he said. The Christians go right down the line. They say he is the Most High. They say that he did away with the law, even though he didn't. He said specifically he didn't. All these falsehoods, they've created a whole roster of BS falsehoods off of the back of the Messiah, off what he came to do, what he told us, what he showed us, that two-edged sword proceeding out from his mouth. They use that to commit lawlessness. That's why we know that the story, fake story of the Messiah, not the one in the Bible, but the one the Christians tell you, that's the man of lawlessness. It's the working of Satan that's spoken about in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. But what you need to understand is when you eat the blood with the meat, you're committing a big trespass. That's why even in the New Testament, like in Acts and that, when they're talking about how do we talk to these people, these Gentiles, they one of the first things they say, just teach them to abstain from blood. That's not because they were all drinking blood like vampires. No, it's huge that you respect animals. I'm not saying, nor does the word ever say, that you are to be a vegetarian and not eat meat. He permits it, but you have to do it the prescribed way. Why? Because he's chief. He's boss. They're his animals. The blood that's in them is their life, and that life it belongs to him. He has put it inside of them, just like he put it in me and you. And until you put down your bloodlust, people, every time we have this conversation, I have people all the time say, oh, that's crazy. I'm eating my hamburger. And they like to rub it in. They'll say, I'll go get me a T-bone steak right now and make it medium rare. And they laugh about it. They think this is a joke. The joke is on them. That's a bloodlust. If you can't imagine eating the meat the way the Most High has prescribed, and you think, oh, I gotta have, that's a bloodlust. That's what that is. You can call it whatever you want, but what it is called, the fact of it is, it's a bloodlust. It's just like the word hate. People treat people like garbage, and if you say, why do you hate that man? They'll say, I don't hate him. And it's just because they didn't use the word hate. See, they've traded good for evil and evil for good. So one thing I can assure you that will keep you from seeing certain truths, be that maybe it's the land, maybe it's whatever we could be talking about, this 42 stuff, the fact of the time we're in. The Messiah said, we are supposed to know the time we're in. The Messiah said, how is it that you can see a storm cloud in the sky and know that it's about to rain, but you can't tell the times that you're living in? He said, no man knows the day or hour. That's specific. He don't even know the day or the hour. But we are to know the season. He gave us warnings, things to look for. He said, when you see the abomination that lays waste spoken of in Daniel, if you're in Yehuda, in Utah, flee to the mountains. That's what he said. And pray that your flight won't be on the Shabbat or in wintertime. So those things, those truths about the 42, about all the things that you see going on in the world right now, the Most High has shown me from the start about that COVID was the dragon being wroth with the woman and the remnant of her seed. I've put the facts on here. And I've growed in those facts. I've learned more about it. I've seen more about it. Just like I'm telling you right now, I saw in that movie the other day, that was confirmation. There was people, Jews, singing in Jerusalem on the inside of a wall. And zombies heard that singing, loud, beautiful singing, and they breached the wall at the number 42 spot. The time, it's a ticking. It's crunch time, my mishpachah. I'll tell you right now, hamburger patty is not worth your eternal life. And if you're like most and you can argue and say, oh, that's no big deal, then why is it a big deal to keep the rest of the Torah? Because what I'm talking about right now is the Torah. And we just seen the boundary to his house. And all who will live within his boundaries in that Torah. You ain't, even in Ezekiel, it even talks about restoring a righteous meat pot, a pot to cook your meat in. He talks about how, it's all through there, about how all the abominations they committed, and they ate the blood with the meat and the fat and all these things. You know, the only excuse that you might have now is, well, I like meat. Well, it doesn't matter what you like. It doesn't matter. He never said that you can't eat meat. He said if you eat it, you have to do it like this. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. It's hard to hear, but just think about Ezekiel when Abba told Ezekiel, he said, go to that wall, dig with your hand through the wall, dig a hole, and pull them out. And that's symbolic. That ain't literal. He literally didn't do that. What do you think the people, Abba told him? He said, these people are going to refuse to hear the words that are coming out of my mouth. They're not going to want to hear it. It doesn't matter if you want to hear it. I'm here to do a job, suited and booted. I'm here to make known to the people right now the difference between the profane and the set apart, between the clean and the unclean. I'm here. We just read it. I'm here to make known to you the measurements. So when you are ashamed of your crookednesses, you can measure the measurements and do them. And no one is better than the next person. When someone puts down everything that has made that wall in between the Most High and them, you will be forgiven. The Most High says that, but He's no idiot. You have to go a certain distance of time and prove that you are sincere and that you're body and that you're here. You are no longer going to commit these abominations. So just because you're smarter or nicer than most people, if you put something like this down, that doesn't mean that tomorrow you get front row seat. You're no different, no better than everyone else. There has to be a prescribed, a set length of time. That's why it's called the measurements, that you have to go. You have to go a certain distance in order to be trusted. This is about your trust. He has to trust you. And He's no dummy. He's not going to buy that you quit eating hamburger last week and now we're good. You know, you're going to have to prove it to Him. And that's what He wants. That's what this is about. This is about proving our love to Him, meeting Him at the wedding supper. And you know, in Revelations it says, here is the endurance of the set apart ones. Though these are those who keep the commandments of the Most High and the belief of Yahusha. And right around there in the context somewhere, it says the belief of the set apart ones. The belief of the set apart ones is the same as the belief of Yahusha. It doesn't say in, it says of. You have to believe the same way He did. And that is not my will, but the Father's will. And if you can't put down the blood, and you don't even see it as blood, that's because you're committing pride that the tree in the garden of the knowledge of good and evil has created. It's made you think that you can do it your way. Do what thou will. The opposite of that, humility, is, okay, Abba told me not to eat meat like this. He knows best, because I don't know Jack. I'm going to take His word for it, and I'm going to do as He has commanded me to do. I don't care what Susan said or Bill. I don't care what I'm used to. We've been used to a lot of things, a lot of abominations. But all of those must be put down, those crookednesses of them. And when you are ashamed, you are to measure the measurements of the Hakal, of the set-apart place. And now, I'm going to leave you right there with that. And hopefully, you guys will interact if you have a question. And let's talk about this. What I would really like is to have a Bible study. That's what I've always wanted, but no one ever wants to go the distance as far as the truth goes. So it's just me out here giving all esteem, and I'll continue to do that on my own if I have to. I mean, there's a few of you who do interact here and there, but we need to be, guys, we need to be giving this all we got right now. I hope that you don't laugh about that and you take this as a joke. I hope you take all of these words the Most High has for us, His sword that's unsheathed. I hope you take it very seriously. And that you understand He hasn't forgotten about the blood. And it's no coinky-dink that it's not talked about whatsoever, and that blood is eaten all around you. That you can't go anywhere without seeing it overwhelm the menu. Humility will cause you to ask the questions. Go in the scripture. Look for the answer. Ask the Most High. But if you can't, if you say, that's done away with, there's that abomination, that pride, which is the curse, puffed up within you, and it's going to prohibit you from receiving life and blessings that you could be receiving. So, if you have questions, I hope you do come ask. Let's talk about it. Let's go through Ezekiel, go back and learn all the measurements, all the designs of the house together. And let's do this. Let's sing loudly together. I hope that you would want to join in that. But if it's left up to me, right here on All Esteem, I'll sing as loud as I can, and I'll give Abba Yahuwah, the Most High, our righteousness, our wonderful Creator, on my face, if it has to be by myself, but I hope it ain't. But if so, I'll give him all honor, all praise, all glory, and all esteem. And now, I'm not talking about the few of you who do chime in once in a while. I'm just saying we need to be taking this extra seriously. And for those of you who don't, who are going to laugh, you just read where the boundary of the house is. And it's in that Torah. And I can tell you right now, laughing, mocking, and scoffing isn't a part of that. Till next time, ease out.